Alrighty, so we're going to do our next exercise, which is 10.02, and it's on working overtime. Now, overtime is working beyond your usual working hours, such as at night or on weekends, or even a public holiday sometimes, and this is usually paid at a higher rate. So, only people who work for a wage are paid overtime. So, if you earn a salary, you don't have the opportunity to earn overtime. So, some common lingo that I haven't put, which I should before this example, is if you are getting paid time and a half. This means it is 1.5 times your normal pay. Now, times, remember, is the same as multiply. So if you're earning time and a half, you're going to multiply whatever your normal rate is by 1.5. The other one that we need to know is double time. Whoop. And what that is 2 times your normal pay. So you're just times your normal rate by 2. So let's jump in with this first example. So Alyssa's normal rate of pay is $16.81 per hour. She is paid time and a half on Saturdays and double time on Sundays. How much does she earn per hour on Saturdays, and how much will she earn for working 4 hours on a Sunday? So as we talked about in our last exercise, because it's a full-worded question for A and B, we do need to do therefore statements. Let's grab our highlighter and highlight some of our key information. So we know she earns $16.81 per hour. Time and a half on Saturdays, double time on Sundays. So for part A, we want to find her hourly rate on Sat. I'm just going to write Sat rather than Saturday. So we know it's time and a half, so that's a 1.5. We know that when it says time and a half, it's 1.5 times your normal pay. Times meaning multiply, and then we take her normal pay of $16.81. And that is going to give us $25.22. Therefore, Alyssa earns $25.22 per hour on Saturday. Alright, for B, we want to calculate how much she'll earn for working 4 hours on Sunday. So what we want to do first is actually find out how much she earns per hour on a Sunday. So we're going to say hourly rate on Sunday. We know that it's double time, so it's going to be 2 times her $16.81, and that's going to mean she is getting paid $33.62 per hour. We know then she's working 4 hours, so we'd say pay. You can just write pay because we are going to write a therefore statement. So pay equals the 4 hours times the $33.62, which is going to be $134.48. So therefore, Alyssa earns $134.48 for working 4 hours on Sunday. And that's it for that question. let's move on to our next example. So Hasid earns $18 per hour. How much will he earn for working 35 hours a week? And when Hasid works for more than 7 hours per day, he is paid overtime. For the first 3 hours he works overtime, he is paid time and a half. Any additional overtime hours are paid at double time. How much will he earn for working 12 hours in one day? So the first thing we want to do is use our highlighting method. So we know $18 per hour, and he's working a 35-hour week. So A is fairly straightforward. We'd just say pay for 35 hours. It's going to equal 18 times 35, which is going to give us $630. Again, because A and B are their own worded questions, we need to do a therefore statement. So therefore, Hasid earns $630 for 35 hours work. All right, part B is a little bit trickier. There's a heap of information in here. So you might remember in year 9, we mainly did it, and we might have done it a little bit in year 10, but we used something called the cubes method. So I'm actually going to use this for this worded question in this part B because there is a lot going on. So I'm going to just switch to a different color and I'll zoom in a little bit. So we want to circle key numbers and units. So, 12 hours is important. 3 hours overtime. There's also time and a half. More than 7 hours per day. And then double time. So we've circled those key numbers. We then want to underline the question. So how much will he earn for working 12 hours in one day? We're then going to box any math action words. So it's a bit tricky, this question, because we have circled so much already. But our math action words are like, what am I going to do? And I'm going to add, subtract, multiply, divide. So what can kind of help is this additional. So additional looks like add or addition. So it means we're going to be adding. We're then going to evaluate and eliminate. So I'm going to just use my black pen and make it a little bit thicker. And I'm going to cross out all the information I don't need. So we don't really care about his name. We care about the more than 7 hours. He's paid overtime. So more than 7 hours overtime. Crossed out a bit too much there. First 3 hours he's worked overtime is time and a half. Additional overtime are paid at double time. So if I go back to my smaller, this might not help you. If it doesn't help you, it's fine, don't use it. But it might help you when you have these questions that are asking you a bunch of information. Our last thing is we want to solve and show our working and check. We can't really check too much in this question, but we can solve and show our working. So we know that he's working 12 hours in one day. We know that. When he works more than 7 hours, so we know 7 hours is going to be his normal pay. The first 3 hours overtime, he's paid time and a half. So from 7 to 10 hours, he's paid time and a half. And then for anything 10 onwards, it is double time. So when he's working 12 hours, and I don't know if I'm just going to confuse you more with this, but we have done this in class. You can kind of think of it as like a cylinder in a way that he's filling up. So let's change that a little bit. So he's on in this section here, normal pay. And that goes up to 7. This then goes up to 10. This is time and a half. And then this goes up to infinity, and this is double time. Now really, I am lying when I say infinity, because there's only 24 hours in a day. He's probably not going to work all of that though. So what we need to do with this is break it up a little bit. We know, if we kind of think of it as we're pouring it in, so we want to hit our 12 hours. So I'll swap to my highlighter. We know he is working, like, say up to here. To the 12, I should put it on the other side, up until 12 hours. So we know he's got 7 times his normal pay of $18. Let's write this next to it. So 7 times 18. Now we won't do our equals. We then know from 7 to 10, he has got 3 hours. And this is going to be at his time and a half. So it's going to be 3 times his normal wage times 1.5. Then in this double time, he's creeping over it from 10 to 12 by 2 hours. So it's going to be 2 times 18 times 2, because it's double time. Again, I might have just made this way more confusing for you than needed. If you can just do this next line, I'm happy for you to do that. You don't need to draw a picture. But if that helps you, then I am more than happy for you to do that. So we're going to say pay for 12 hours. And we're going to add all these together because we want additional, so it's telling us add. So it's going to be 7 times 18 plus 3 times 18 times 1.5 plus 2 times 18 times 2. Now you do need to remember to use BOMDAS. So what that means, if I just switch, is you need to do this section. Then you need to do this section. And then you need to do this section. If you just try to do it all in one hit, you're probably going to get the wrong answer. What we're going to end up with is 279 once we do that. I don't have an example underneath. So we know that we can then say, therefore, Hasid earns $279 for working 12 hours in one day. And that's it for that question. Have a go at some of the questions in exercise 10.02 and let me know if you need any help.